Good morning. Welcome to the weekend. Well, almost the weekend. It's Market Day Report. I'm Tony St. James. Let's jump into overnight markets. Now, we're trading not just the last day of the week, but it's the last trading day of the month. So could we see fireworks later today? Well, here's what happened overnight. September corn, 376 and a quarter, up 4.5 cents. December, a tick above $4 and up 4.25 cents. What about the soybean trade? Now, two things we're watching for corn and soybeans. Corn above $4, soybeans above 10 on the new crop. Now the old crop up 13.75, 987.5, top of the trading range. In November, the new crop at 1007.25, up 14.75. What about the wheat market? Can we hit $5.50? Well, September 526.25, penny and a quarter higher, but roll out to that July and it's 586.25, half penny higher. And for hard red winter wheat, higher as well. Front month 548.75, up 3.25, unchanged on the new crop. And spring wheat Minneapolis 8 higher on September, 562.5, and the December 591.25, 3/4 cent higher. And finally, cotton market, December contract hanging above 70 at 70.03, up 11. Brian Hoops, President, Midwest Market Solutions. Okay, Brian, this is really our last chance to talk before we head into the weekend and we close out everything for the month. What are you watching?
Good morning, Tony. Well, it's been a big week for soybeans. Remember, a week ago we had the Pro Farmer Tour announcement, and on Sunday night we opened sharply lower, about a dime lower, around that 955, 960 range, and pretty much that was the low. We've rallied up above $10 in this week's time, and typically we'd see a rally going into Labor Day, then we give it back as harvest starts to begin in early September. But this is the highest that soybeans have traded since August the 9th, and a pretty strong market getting above the $10 level, especially if you're a fundamentalist. You're looking at the weather maps and that Jeff just put out there. You see rain going across some of the key areas of the Corn Belt this week. Well, it may get a little drier next week, but that's okay because you've had a lot of rain. You're probably scratching your head about why beans are rallying in here. We had another private export sale announcement this morning, more soybeans to China, another couple cargoes. That's one of the reasons why we found some strength of strong exports, but also some technical buying, short covering, giving us this lift. So it's been led by soybeans, spilled over to corn. I think corn's actually trading 2 cents higher on the month right now, believe it or not. So, corn really hasn't fallen out of bed. It's back above that $4 level. We're hitting retracements. I think 1009 on the charts is a 62% retracement for November soybeans. It looks like that's a likely target, at least near the opening range this morning for soybeans to trade at, and we'll see if we can hold that going into this long 3-day weekend.
So one question I have, I saw this from Spread Edge Capital earlier. Soybeans near their lowest hedge fund position in 52 weeks. We've already seen the lowest for cotton. So does that mean there's still more money that could flow back into soybeans?
Absolutely, and you look at whether it's hedged money or if you look at just the large trading funds, they're on the sidelines with some money and just where to go with it and where to deploy it. So typically in this third quarter, we get selling pressure. Now we've had a good rally this week, but will the funds come back in next week after the month ends and start to push the soybean market down again, anticipating the September supply and demand report, which is 2 weeks from yesterday? Is that going to give us bearish data info that would push the market even lower? Increased soybean yields into the numbers that Pro Farmer said suggests we should drop sharply going into the harvest time frame just based off of the stocks to use ratios.
Chinese currency hitting its highest level in what, about 14 months? Dollar could snap its 5-week loss today. I would imagine those two things will work their way into this conversation next month. Speaking of working our way into a conversation, how about we work our way to a break, but come back and talk cattle and hogs with Brian Hoops. Market Day Report continues after this. Good morning. It's Market Day Report. This could be an exciting trading day for us. Again, it's the end of the week, it's the end of the month, and we're seeing some positive news leading to an overnight rally. Now, we don't trade livestock futures in the overnight session, but how did we finish yesterday? Let's start with live cattle. We did see red in October, down 72 at 177.90, in December at 176.70, off a $1.07. What about the feeders? Well, we saw more of the same there with a $1.80 loss in September. October down a $1.90 at 236.67. We mentioned earlier with Brian Hoops that the hedge fund positions are at their lowest level for cotton in 52 weeks, near the lowest level for soybeans, and same thing for cattle as well. So feeders in the red yesterday, down a $1.90 on the October. Now, the hog trade yesterday did finish higher, with October up a $0.50, 82.17, and December 62 cents higher, 72.55. So let's bring Brian Hoops back in, Midwest Market Solutions. And Brian, what do you watch as we head into the weekend?
Well, we can sometimes get an indication of looking at the futures and where the bid ask and where the buying interest, the selling interest is coming in the cattle market for an indication of how we're going to open. Right now, it looks like we could open a little bit higher, 15, 20 points better. And of course, those can change by 8:30 on the opening, but that's given us ideas that we're going to recover some of this lost ground that we saw yesterday. Cash cattle trade developed basically $1 lower in the Southern Plains. On a dress basis, it was $1 lower around that 292 area. So a disappointment from the cash, because we had rallied earlier in the week. The mentality was we'd have at least steady money this week, and that did not happen. So now we're hoping that next week we can finally turn that corner and put in some seasonal lows in the cash markets, and same thing in the futures. Disappointment in the cutout values, I think, as well, leading to some selling yesterday. Steer weights were up 6 pounds on the week. Another fundamental negative item here for the cattle market. Key is, can we see some sort of recovery and sustain that going into the end of the trading month here?
And we also hit the end of the unofficial grilling season this weekend. It's not the end of the season for me. How about you?
No, sir. We grill 12 months out of the year around here. So it's nice to live in the southern areas where it's still warm. So.
And I'm an equal opportunity griller. I'll grill beef or pork. I'll throw lamb on if I get a chance. But anyway, hope you have a great weekend. Brian, thanks for dropping by. And we'll talk next week. Brian Hoops is president, Midwest Market Solutions.